Kron, bit of a unique open workout up there. Just tell us what you're kind of doing in terms of the breathing exercises and everything.
With the breathing exercises, it's something that my dad learned when he was like 20 years old. So this guy Orlando Cunning, who's basically a master of movement and a master of breathing with your movements, all coming from the animals. He taught my dad a lot of breathing techniques, and then my dad would teach me them when I was a little kid, and I was like, why do I need to learn this? And it never really was important to me, but he always made me kind of instilled into me. And then as I got older and more pressure, more training, more difficult times in life, the breathing has really become like my biggest asset.
And that just, I'm sure, allows you to stay calm in there, right? And everything, and just knowing how to control those elements of your body.
I'm sure too, but I always had a natural, since I was 9 years old, I always competed well and was calm in those situations. So I think it's just like more tools to the box.
For sure. And I know you wanted a fight like this, like Cub Swanson level for your debut. They didn't end up giving it to you. How happy were you that for the second fight they kind of gave you something more on the level of what you were hoping for?
I'm very grateful. I'm grateful that I get to test myself against Cub. I know he's lost a few fights, but really he's a tough opponent, and he lost only to really top guys. And I think it's going to be a good test.
He's been submitted in a lot of his losses. Where do you kind of see the flaws in his ground game and maybe some past fights that have kind of allowed those openings for submission guys?
I mean, it's difficult because the fight happens so fast, and really it changes. He could be training specifically what happened so it didn't happen again. So I can't really be too stuck on the footage that's out there. I think fights happen differently with each people, and I'm never putting all my attention into the previous fights of anybody. Every time I fight somebody, it always looks different than any of the other fights. So I'm not too concerned with looking for a hole in his game, because I'm sure he might have already filled that hole up. So I'm just going out there and fighting my best to my best abilities, train hard as always, and train to kill.
The Gracie network's really huge in Tampa. Do you have any connections over here, or do you train with any of it?
I know Hobson Muda. Hobby Muda, I've known him for a long time.
Hobby K, are you?
No, Hobson Muda is a jiu-jitsu black belt. He's won the world's a long time. He's a little littler weight, a little lighter than me, but we had a good time in Japan, and he's a legend in the jiu-jitsu world. I don't know what Gracies are out here. There's a Gracie franchise.
Rob Kahn is one of Royce's first 6 black belts. He's out there.
There's so many Gracies franchises and all that all over the world, not just here. And it's a big web that the Gracie name has spread.
Royce has a real black belt here, so.
Yeah, I'm sure he does. I'm sure more Gracies do too, and I'm glad that all happened. Yeah, I'm glad that all happened. But ultimately, I have my gym, I have my dad, and I have there's different sides to the family. There's different interests, and that's how we do it.
And recently, Cub Swanson spoke to, I believe it was UFC Unfiltered, and said he was, he got kicked out of a few jiu-jitsu school gyms because he's fighting you, and they didn't allow him to train. I'm curious to see if you're a school owner as well. If you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, I do. I have the way I grew up in training and fighting in martial arts is you basically have a clan, you have a team, and you're with your team forever, and if you leave your team, you're a traitor. That's the way I grew up, and in Portuguese they call it creonte. And so for me, I have this instilled in me, and no matter how things are going with me or my team, it's always my team. I don't get to just pick and choose as I go along with this career, whether it's jiu-jitsu or whether it's fighting. So I think that in the olden times, the war, you have a clan, and you can't just go back, I didn't like this clan this time, and I'm going to go somewhere else. So I think ultimately, in modern day right now, you tell me something like that, I'm like, duh. But I want to see what gym actually told him not to, because I saw him have a photo with a jiu-jitsu gym, and I saw that he said that, and I'm wondering what gym was that, because he doesn't have his gym already set up. He doesn't have jiu-jitsu training already set up. He doesn't have his whole team. He's been fighting for 15 years, and he doesn't have all these resources already. So it doesn't make any sense to me that this happened now, and it doesn't make any sense to me that what gyms didn't let them train, that he was so interested in training that was going to make such a difference. And if so, let me know so I can send you guys some shirts.
We'll ask him when he comes here later, and we can tell you tomorrow.
Yeah, for sure.
Uriah Faber said over the summer he was offered you as his return fight. What happened with that? He ended up taking a fight at 135. Is that a fight that would still interest you down the road?
Originally, see, Uriah and Nick, again, this is the loyalty part that I'm talking about, which is very rare today. Nick and Uriah had a deal to not fight each other's teams for a long time. And as this was in the beginning of their fight. So I don't know, maybe Uriah kind of forgot about that. And since he's got new fighters and new things, he's not really too concerned with what they basically don't fight each other. Nick Diaz guys, Nate Diaz guys don't fight Urijah Faber's guys. And I'm part of Nick's team. I've learned a lot from them. So alpha male guys have came and trained with us over in Stockton. And I kind of see like it's kind of like we're not the bestest of friends, but we're not enemies, and there's enough enemies out here. So I kind of didn't want to fight him because, one, the team was all kind of like, hey, it's not that's Uriah. Uriah is part of our kind of, we're friends. We talk. Everything's cool. They come and train. So that was kind of the situation. So I kind of didn't want to step on anybody's toes. I didn't want to make anybody from my team feel weird. I didn't want anybody from their team to feel weird, so I just kind of was like, it's not an interesting fight for me. But if he keeps calling my name and keeps talking shit and he keeps wanting the fight, then, I'm not going to not fight him if he's attacking me, I did my part, and I said at first that I didn't want to fight him based on the fact that he's an affiliation with Nick and Nate, but to a certain extent, I'm still a man, and I personally do not have a relationship with him.
And it's been 9 months since your UFC debut. I'm curious, why the long gap?
I don't know.
Are you hoping to fight more frequently after this?
I'd like to, yeah, I think so. I think maybe that time. Time off is good too, I always train like a psycho when I'm training, so even whether I'm in a camp or not, I'm always pushing myself a lot. And
have you been offered any fights in the last 9 months other than this one? Other than Uriah, obviously, and the one that
Yeah, they're trying to make fights happen, of course, and ultimately, in theory, Uriah is a good idea because he's a big name. It just didn't work out with the fact that he has he's close with Nick, or was close with Nick, and they have kind of like some sort of understanding. And but yeah, they offer fights, and really, I don't want to fight nobody with no name, Because for me, I'm already fought my whole life, my whole jiu-jitsu career, and I'm in a position where I have enough of a name to bring another fight and make it a big fight. So I'm after making a big fight, and it does nothing for me to fight somebody who doesn't have a name.
Any names interest you that are that big fight moving forward in the future?
After this fight, we'll see. I think there's always, this fight is a great test, and we'll see what happens. I'm not guaranteeing anything. I don't have no predictions for anything. I think the fight game is crazy. You can do your best, but ultimately it's up to the fight gods, and we'll see what happens after this fight. But obviously, I'm trying to do my best.
With a win on Saturday, would we get a call out possibly?
I don't know what the woulda. I don't know what's gonna happen on Saturday. We don't have a crystal ball, so let's see and hope for the best.
And it seems there was some reports that came out from Combate reporting that maybe Joanna Jędrzejczyk was having some issues with her weight. And I believe on the same report it stated that perhaps they would bump the co-main event to the main event. We're not really sure of the status on that. Joanna says everything's fine, but in case something were to go down, would you have any problem stepping in the main event?
I have no problem. I've been in the main event before in Japan a few times. No problem. I fought a 10-minute round with Kawajiri. I got no problems.
Yeah. And in case they changed rounds-wise, because you're scheduled for 3 rounds, would you have any problem fighting 5 rounds?
I think we got to negotiate that with the UFC, but I got no problem,
Thank you, Kron.
Thank you, Kron.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.